Asajj Ventress was never meant to be a hero. She was never given the luxury of peace, never granted the privilege of belonging. Her life was a series of betrayals, a relentless battle against a galaxy that refused to give her a place. She was shaped by loss, hardened by pain, and yet, through it all, she refused to break. The Clone Wars introduced her as a weapon, a pawn in the grand game of war. But beneath the fury and the blade, there was something far greater. A soul searching for meaning in a world that had only ever taken from her. She was a warrior, but not by choice. She was a Sith assassin, but not by design. Every path she walked was one carved for her by others, leading her deeper into a life she never truly controlled. The Jedi failed her, the Sith used her, and the war consumed her. Yet she stood against it all, wielding her pain like a blade, defying every expectation placed upon her. But how does a person survive when their entire existence is built on suffering? How do they find their way when every road leads to destruction? For years, Ventress fought against the tides of fate, resisting the labels the galaxy forced upon her. She was never just a villain, never just a servant of darkness, but the Clone Wars never gave her the justice she deserved. She was a force of nature, bending but never breaking, enduring loss after loss with a strength that went unnoticed by those who only saw her as an obstacle. And in the end, despite everything, her story was left unfinished. Her legacy overshadowed by those deemed more important in the grand narrative of war. This is not just about a character who was wronged. This is about a warrior who deserved more, a survivor who was never given the recognition she earned. The Clone Wars may have reduced her to a side note in history, but those who truly understand her story know that she was so much more than that. Her journey was one of resilience, of defiance, of tragedy, and of triumph, all wrapped into a life that was stolen from her before she could claim it for herself. In this video, we will break down the story of Asajj Ventress, exploring the pain, the betrayal, and the redemption that shaped her existence. We will dive into the moments that defined her, the injustices that followed her, and the fate she never deserved. Because Asajj Ventress was not just a warrior, she was a legend, and legends should never be forgotten. Asajj Ventress was not born into power, nor was she destined for greatness. She was abandoned, stripped of a life she never got the chance to know, and left to fend for herself in a galaxy that did not care for the weak. She was given away as a child, separated from her Night Sister heritage, and forced into a cruel existence where survival was her only goal. She found solace in a Jedi named Kai Narek, a man who saw potential in her when no one else did. He trained her, guided her, gave her the closest thing she ever had to family. But the universe is never kind to those who dream of something better. He was taken from her, ripped away by the very warlords they sought to destroy, leaving her broken and desperate for meaning. The Jedi failed her, the Republic abandoned her, and the weight of her grief led her down a path of anger. That anger became fuel, and that fuel led her to Count Dooku, a Sith Lord who saw her pain and molded it into power. He did not care for her suffering, only for the destruction she could bring to his enemies. But at the time, it did not matter. She finally had a place, a purpose, and for once, she was not alone. But being a pawn in someone else's game never lasts. Power is fleeting, and loyalty is an illusion. When she was no longer useful, Dooku cast her aside like she was nothing. He betrayed her, tried to kill her, and erased her from his plans as if she had never existed. She had fought for him, killed for him, and in the end, none of it mattered. Dooku's betrayal was not a mistake. It was deliberate. It was cruel. It was the ultimate lesson that she was never meant to be anything more than a disposable weapon. The Sith thrive on manipulation, on empty promises and false trust. And she was just another casualty in their endless cycle of destruction. But what makes it worse is how easily he discarded her, as if her years of loyalty had meant absolutely nothing. He turned on her without hesitation, following Darth Sidious's orders without a second thought. And what did she do to deserve this fate? She was strong, capable, and undeniably skilled, but none of that mattered. In the end, she was simply in the way. She could have given up right then. She could have let herself be swallowed by the same darkness that had consumed so many before her, but she refused to die like a pawn. She survived the assassination attempt, escaped the clutches of death, and did something no Sith apprentice had ever done before. She reclaimed her own fate. She returned to Dathomir, to the place where her story had truly begun, seeking refuge among her lost sisters. But even there, peace was an illusion. The war was coming for everyone, and Ventress was about to learn that no matter how far she ran, the past would always catch up to her. The Night Sisters were more than just a coven, they were her true family. Unlike the Sith, they did not see her as a tool, and unlike the Jedi, they did not fear what she could become. They embraced her, welcomed her back, and for the first time in years, she felt like she belonged. She was not alone anymore. But happiness is fragile in a galaxy at war. Dooku, ever the coward, would not allow Ventress to escape his grasp so easily. He sent General Grievous and an entire army of droids to wipe the Night Sisters off the face of the galaxy. What happened next was not a battle. It was a massacre. Her sisters fought with everything they had, but the odds were never in their favor. One by one, they fell, and with each loss, Ventress felt another piece of herself shatter. She had already lost so much, but this was something else. The last remnants of her people, the only ones who had ever truly cared for her, were slaughtered before her very eyes. When the dust settled, there was nothing left. No victory, no salvation, only silence and death. Ventress was once again alone, haunted by the ghosts of those she had failed to protect. She had been betrayed before, but this time, the cost was too great. Loss changes people, but how they respond to it defines who they truly are. Ventress had every reason to give in to hatred, to become the monster the galaxy had always feared her to be. But she chose something else. She chose to forge her own path, one free from the chains of the Sith, the Jedi, and the endless cycle of revenge. She became a bounty hunter, not because she wanted to chase credits, but because it gave her purpose. She could still fight, still survive, but on her own terms. It was the closest thing to freedom she had ever known, even if the scars of her past still lingered. Then came Quinlan Vos, a Jedi unlike any she had ever known. He did not look at her with judgment or fear. He saw something more. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel something other than pain. She let her guard down, let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she could be more than her past. But fate is cruel, and the galaxy does not reward those who seek redemption. What happened to her and Vos was yet another tragedy, another lesson that no matter how hard she tried, she would always be fighting against forces beyond her control. Asajj Ventress did not get the ending she deserved. She should have been remembered as one of the greatest warriors the galaxy had ever seen. Instead, she became a footnote in history, a name whispered only by those who still remembered her pain. She had survived more than most, endured loss after loss, and still, she was never given the recognition she had earned. Her story was one of perseverance, of strength in the face of endless betrayal, yet the Clone Wars treated her as if she was just another side character in a much larger game. She was more than that. She was more than just a Sith assassin, more than a bounty hunter, more than a failed Jedi. She was proof that people are not defined by the choices forced upon them. She was proof that no matter how much suffering the galaxy inflicted, one could still rise above it. But the galaxy never cared for warriors like her. It used them, discarded them, and moved on without a second thought. She should have been more. She should have been remembered as the legend she truly was. But instead, she was left behind another casualty of a war that never truly ended. Asajj Ventress did not ask for power. She did not ask to be abandoned, to be used, to be betrayed at every turn. But that was the life she was given, and she fought through it with more strength than anyone ever gave her credit for. She should have had a place in the future of the galaxy. She should have lived to see what came after the war, to forge a new path without the ghosts of her past chasing her at every step. But the Clone Wars never gave her that chance. It took everything from her, and when there was nothing left to take, it discarded her like she was nothing. Her story deserved a better ending. She should not have been forgotten. She should not have faded into obscurity while others reaped the rewards of a war she had suffered through more than most. But that is the tragedy of Asajj Ventress. No matter how much she fought, no matter how much she endured, the galaxy never cared enough to see her for who she truly was. She was not just a warrior. She was not just a villain. She was not just another name in the Clone Wars. She was a survivor, and she deserved better. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to subscribe to Critical Analysis Hub for deep dives into the Star Wars movies, and check out Critical Analysis Hub Plus for case studies on Star Wars shows. Also, if you want to rep the fandom in style, check out the bio for awesome Star Wars Legos and Funko Pops. May the Force be with you. I'll see you in the next one.